Hello and welcome to this latest Swim Gower video. Now this swim is the only one in the book that you have to do on an exact day. So this is an adventure swim and it is the summer solstice sunrise swim. And it takes place in Oxwich beach, but it requires a bit of a walk to get there. So you have to get up nice and early before the sunrise on the longest day, so probably about 4 in the morning, and you need a torch because of course it will be dark when you're walking. You also need to have some good footwear because the path underneath your feet is actually quite rough. There's lots of trip hazards, lots of things that you have to go down, lots of stairs. You also have to climb up some stairs, so just be aware of that. When you get to the spot, I like to just sit and watch the sunrise first before I go for my dip, and then you can observe the tide coming in or going out and watch for a good spot to clamber down the rocks and make your way down. Now the clambering down is quite tricky, so I'll walk you through that, but you do need some swim shoes or something that helps you to get down quite easily. The easiest route down to the water's edge is to follow the strata of the rock. You can see that it's sloping downwards, so try and find an easy route. There are quite a bit of rocks that are quite sharp there, so you do need to wear shoes with a hard sole, and you may need to clamber down in certain places where it is quite steep, so you can use your hands as well. So if you've got nothing in your hands, that really helps. When you get closer to the shoreline, it starts to get a bit easier, but you do have some seaweed, so try and avoid walking on the seaweed because it is quite slippery. And you might see some lovely bits of wildlife as well on the way, so keep an eye out for that as well. As you can see, there are some stones there, so if you can get down onto the stones quickly off the rocks, then it's a bit easier to walk. But we've got barnacles as you get closer, and they're really nice and grippy, and it makes it easier. As you can see, the slope carries on when the tide is in as well, although this is a very low tide, so you can follow those sloping rocks all the way in, but there are gaps in between them, so you do need to take your time when you're walking in to swim. See, it's a bit of a scramble to get down there. The rocks, as I said, a bit uneven, have to use your hands, and there are some flat bits and also some gaps in between. Now, as I said, this is a low tide, so if summer solstice happened to be sunrise at high tide, then you'd be going straight off the slopey rocks. You wouldn't be getting onto these individual large boulders. And as you see, as I get into the water here, then still it gets quite tricky because you've got the same structure as these rocks are, big boulders on a slope with big gaps in between. And you can see, because the sea was actually quite clear this day, but sometimes it could be quite tricky. So I would recommend, once you're in the water and just not ready to swim because it's got too many rocks in the way, you start to crouch down and almost go along on your bum. And just take your time, because if you do fall in between those two boulders or in between them, you can nastily scratch yourself with the barnacles, but also you can get your feet trapped. So really nice slow entrance into the water here, taking your time. And once you've got either a rock that's got enough depth that you can launch into the water, or you feel that you can launch yourself forward, then you can just push off and start to swim.
Chris.
When you've finished your swim, you need to retrace your steps, so walk back up the sloping rocks and through the footpath, so up through the bushes onto the main path, and then once you get up to the main path you need to turn right and then follow that back up through the woods to where you started.
So just come back from my summer solstice sunrise swim. Fantastic, the weather was brilliant. However, because the tide was low, so it was an hour before low tide, it would have been tricky to swim all the way up to the beach. So I'll do that on another video and I can show you how that is. But just going out and swimming from the rocks was just incredible. Quite tricky underfoot, so you've got to be careful where you're stepping. But yeah, highly recommend it. And if you like it, then please get Swim Gower book, my book. And I'll see you at the next video, at the next swim.